Oh, 9 o'clock on your Tuesday morning. Welcome in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Belcher along with you here on your, again, Tuesday on the game. Jack, I'm out of breath. I came in scorching hot this morning. Shout out to my wife who picked me up from getting my car dropped off to get some damage repaired on it. Had to come in from Irmo this morning, so I was cutting it by the skin of my teeth, but I got here in time.
Did you get in like an accident or something, or what happened?
So this was honestly like 2 months ago, which for anybody that's ever been in any kind of accident or fender bender, you know that like going through the process of getting your car repaired with your insurance company takes forever. And it's legitimately taken me 2 months of like estimates and talking to body shops and going back and forth with my insurance company to finally get to the point today where I could take it to get dropped off to get the damage fixed. That's how long it's taken.
Jeez. Okay.
I know. It's
well,
been.
look, at least you're doing it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I'm glad it's finally getting done, but it's been one of those things that's been so back and forth and up and down. And again, for anybody that's ever been in a fender bender, and the damage isn't bad. It's a dent to the right front like bumper. But it was like, oh, well, they need to replace the bumper, but the insurance company won't pay for the bumper replace. So it's been a saga. I'm glad it's finally gotten dropped off. I had to come in from Irmo, so I was like nervous as I was watching the traffic back up and ebb and flow and all that kind of stuff. But again, shout out to my wife. We got here right in the nick of time and was here to start the show, which I'm thankful for.
Yeah, no, that's good, man. So we got a lot to talk about today. It's been a day since the Reaction Monday.
Right.
How are we feeling overall now that we've had a little bit more time to kind of compartmentalize just everything?
I feel like we got a lot off of our chest yesterday because, and that's what Reaction Mondays are for. It's for that pent up either joy or frustration that you had from the game on Saturday. And unfortunately, most of this year, it's been a lot of frustration with the way the Gamecocks have lost. And Saturday was a historical, in a lot of sense, way of frustration with how that went down and how you blew it in the second half and all that. And I feel like, and I think I speak for a lot of people that called in and texted in yesterday, hopefully we got a lot of that off of our chest. Now, that doesn't mean that today is, sunshine and rainbows, because it's not. You're still a program that's 3-7 with 2 very challenging games to go. Like, don't overlook Coastal. That's a team that's certainly capable of coming into Willie B and making you miserable all over again. And then Clemson is a team that looks like they are kind of figuring things out in the late stages of the season. They've put a couple wins together here as of late, and they've already gotten themselves to bowl eligibility. So, there's no reprieve, right? It doesn't get easier from here. The reality of you being a team that's 3-9 or 4-8 and at best 5-7 is all still very much on the table.
No, I mean, there's nothing off the table at this point in terms of what their record could be at season's end. Like, I could totally see a way in which they fall to 3-9 on the year. If they play like they have for the better part of this entire season, they could easily lose these next 2 games. I could also see a way in which they play like the team they did in the first half against A&M. They can go out there and beat anybody. So, I mean, look, this season is already shot. I mean, you're not going to a bowl game, all but likely. There is a scenario where 5-7 team can get into a bowl game, but it requires somebody to. There needs to be an open slot if there's not enough bowl eligible teams. Or you see it with like Marshall last year when their coach left for Southern Miss and a lot of players opted out and they just did not have a roster essentially to go compete in a bowl game, so they had to drop out. I think it was Louisiana Tech who stepped in at 5-7. So you get scenarios like that, or just there's not enough bowl eligible teams, but it's not very likely. So let's just say South Carolina is not going to a bowl game. It's still a disappointing season, but you really do have a chance to not make up for everything,
Sure.
but you do have a chance to at least go into the offseason on a hotter note, especially with a win over Clemson. I think fans around here would be very pleased with that, even though the season as a whole has been disappointing.
Yeah, I'm just kind of taking a quick glance at standings throughout the country. And in the American, you've got 6 teams already bowl eligible. In the ACC, you've got 8 teams already bowl eligible. Big 12, pretty much half the league. Big 10, about half the league. And again, there's still 2 more games to play for everybody to get to bowl eligibility. So I can't add it up all in my head right now, but it's a rarer instance where they have to go to the 5 and 7 teams. And again, it doesn't mean you're first pick of the litter.
No,
there is a academic scoring system they use to determine who would go first. And I can't for the life of me tell you where Carolina sits in that or not.
No, so I'm sure I don't know what exactly it's all based off of. With I think it's called, what is it, like the APR?
I think it's the APR score, and it's an average of I don't know what all goes into it, but there's a ranking that comes from that, and it basically goes in order of where you rank in that on who gets bowls if there's not enough 6 and 6 teams.
Yeah, well, academically speaking, I'm sure Shane Beamer is trying to do everything he can to make sure that his players have like the best grades possible, which is I'm sure has been the case all season. But yeah, and Shane's already said that he would be totally down to go compete in a bowl game because again, it's extra practices for the team. It's more time spent together. But they've got to win these next 2 games for that to even be a thought, a possibility. And even then, it still might be a stretch.
Yeah, again, a lot to get into, and including how this loss is being viewed nationally. And we'll get to that in just a moment. But first, it is 9 o'clock. And as always, we must kick things off with a Sandstorm Pick-Me-Up.
Time to get hyped. Here's your 9 a.m. Sandstorm, sponsored by George Sink Injury Lawyers. Just call all 9s.
It is time for your 9 a.m. Sandstorm Pick-Me-Up, brought to you by South Carolina's largest injury law firm, George Sink Injury Lawyers. If you've been hurt in the car or at work, call George Sink now at 803-ALL-9. See, the thing about losing a game in the way that South Carolina did on Saturday is it garnered the attention of everybody across the college football and, quite frankly, sports landscape. Because I said this yesterday, I think for most of this year, South Carolina has been pretty irrelevant to most people, right? They started off the year highly ranked. Again, all the buzz of what happened last year and Sellers and Stewart and all this kind of stuff. But roughly a month into the season, I think most people figured out, okay, well, Carolina's just not as good as they were last year. And most people, quite frankly, stopped paying attention. Well, when you get up 30-3 on the number 3 team in the country, and look, I don't think this was an appointment television game for most people. I don't think people were waking up saying, oh, man, I can't wait to watch Carolina and A&M play outside of the Gamecock and Aggie fandom. But when you're watching another game and you look at that little score bug at the bottom, or they do the break-in and say, hey, look what's happening in College Station. South Carolina's up, 17-3 at the end of the first quarter. Then people say, okay, hey, let me check this out. Because we all love upsets, right? We all love the chaos of an upset, especially if you do it in the other team's home venue and seeing the shocked faces of the home fans and all that kind of stuff. People started paying attention to this game, and then you blew it. And when you blow it that way, that garners national people to have certain narratives about what you are. And, well, Paul Feinbaum, the voice of the SEC, had his own words for how he saw things go down on Saturday.
And Shane Beamer right now, hate to say it, just looks like a loser. There's no getting around it. I don't know how he scrapes that away. 8 weeks ago, people were concerned he might leave for Virginia Tech. That's no longer on the board. He's got a better chance of leaving, being shown the door than he does getting another job.
And look, that's Paul Feinbaum's words, not ours, in terms of how he views Coach Beamer. But when things go down the way they did on Saturday, that's what the narrative of you and your program are going to be until proven otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, that game on Saturday, I'm very interested to see what the TV rating numbers for that will be, because it was a nationally televised game on ESPN, but it's in the noon slot, so there's other games going on. But considering the way that game went, I got to imagine a lot of people were watching it. And you're right, Tyler, a lot of people were talking about it afterwards. I felt like every channel I turned after the game, it was them, like it was somebody talking about that game. I even got home on Sunday and turned on, I think it was like NFL Red Zone or something, and it randomly got brought up, the A&M game with South Carolina. So yeah, it's a hot topic with how that thing went down. And yeah, I mean, there's only 2 games left in the year now, so it's tough to make a full recovery from that type of game, and who knows if South Carolina will recover from that game. But with Shane keeping these guys motivated, I don't think that's going to be an issue now, even though they're in a situation that they really have not been in where there's just really nothing to play for over the next 2 weeks with no more bowl eligibility. But if anything, like Shane did say on Sunday in his teleconference, to quote him, he's considering these next 2 weeks a, quote, state playoff. So, because you're playing Coastal, you're playing Clemson.
And I know people will look at that and say, that's cheesy, that's stupid. If that's what's going to motivate your team, that's fine. You know what I mean? Who was it a couple years ago? No, I think it was Kalen DeBoer. He created some kind of like West Coast championship in his locker room when he was at Washington or something like that, again, on the outside sounds really silly, but it motivated his team and it worked. Like, okay, if that's your motivating factor, that's fine. I will say, though, and I said this yesterday, these next 2 weeks are kind of like purgatory, right? Because nothing you can do in the next 2 weeks can make us feel better about this season or make us feel any better going into the offseason, right? Like there's no amount of victory over Coastal or Clemson, for that matter.
Hold on.
Do you think so?
Depends on what happens in that Clemson game. I think if you were to go out there and win, like, I don't know, you win by double digits at home, you're going to have a lot of people excited about that because this rivalry does, in fact, mean a ton to people in the state. It doesn't change the fact that the season as a whole has not been good, but beating Clemson at the end of the year does hold a little bit of weight. So, sorry, continue.
Well, I was going to say that that's a good point, but I think that is momentary joy. I think, if you beat Clemson by 1 point, 20 points, 30 points, that is something we can celebrate in the moment. We can celebrate for that reaction Monday or whatever, but very quickly we get back to the reality of, well, this is still a failure of a season. There's nothing in the next two games that can make us feel better about what this entire season has been as a whole, and it's not going to change the narratives and the conversations going into the offseason either. Now, it can't get worse. As we pointed out, you can still go 3-9. And, if you lose to Coastal and you get road graded by Clemson, then we feel a whole lot worse. And then I think we're having a more realistic conversation of, okay, what is Beamer's future here?
Yeah, that's a conversation that I did not think we were going to be having this year, especially since he just got the raise and contract extension this year, back in like January. So it's crazy how much things can change in about 11 months, but that's where we're at.
I'm really glad you brought up that extension because I want to bridge this into what we're going to talk about next in this continuous messaging of we're so close. We're almost there. We're so close because when you get an extension and when you have the season you had last year, close isn't good enough. You're supposed to take that next step. And we'll talk about that next. It is The Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Feltry on your Tuesday here on The Game.
When it comes to HVAC replacements, AAA Heating and Air is the go-to name in the Midlands with guaranteed financing, no payments or interest for 12 months, and a 15-year parts and labor warranty. It's no wonder they're the best in the business. But wait, there's more. Did you know AAA Heating and Air also offers incredible deals for repairs? That's right. If your system is broken and you're worried about the cost, they have got you covered. AAA offers up to 12-month payment plans with no credit check for all repairs. Yep, that's right. So homeowners just need a valid bank account, and you're all set. So don't sweat it. Give AAA a call today at 803-677-1500. Again, the number to call AAA is 803-677-1500. Tell them you heard about them from me here on 107.5 The Game to take advantage of these amazing deals. Your comfort is just a call away.
So much really, really good. And we showed in the first half the team that we, in my mind, are in so many ways, but just haven't been consistently that team. And we showed how close we are. And I've been on the phone with a bunch of recruits this afternoon, and not to predict games, but say there's a pretty strong likelihood that Alabama and Texas A&M are going to play for the SEC championship. And we led both of those teams going into the fourth quarter. And just we're in the game, certainly, with those guys going into the fourth quarter for sure on that one.
Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Belcher with you here on we'll call this Reaction Tuesday, because we're expanding out from yesterday and continuing to unpack what happened on Saturday. And that was Coach Beamer after the game, talking about something that, unfortunately, Jack, we've heard a lot this season. We're so close. We're so close. Play here, play there. We're so close. At some point, that messaging becomes extremely tiring, and people get sick of hearing it. And I think we're way past that point as of right now. And he's not wrong. You're right. You've been in these games in the fourth quarter. You haven't been able to close them out, so you are close, but close isn't good enough. And you brought up the Beamer contract extension there at the end of that last segment, where at the end of last year, after having one of the best seasons in school history, they gave him the extension through 2030 with the increases to his salary every single year, all that kind of stuff. When you get that kind of extension coming off of last year, you're not supposed to be close. You're supposed to be winning those games. And in fact, last year, you were winning those games. You went on a 6-game win streak. You beat A&M here by dominating them in the second half. You had a comeback win against Missouri. You had a comeback win against Clemson, and now you're doing the exact opposite. You're losing those games in the fourth quarter. Other teams are coming back on you. You're blowing leads in the second half. You're doing the exact opposite of what you're doing a year ago. Nobody wants to hear we're so close, because you should have already been there, because you were last year.
I mean, we're hearing it every single week at this point. It's kind of become I think it's been since the beginning of the year where we haven't really heard as much anymore, very rarely at this point. And now, kind of as the season has wore on and the losses have stacked up here during this long losing streak, we're hearing we're so close, we're not that far off. But again, they're still continuing to lose these games that they really should be winning. I mean, if you put last year's team up against these teams that they're facing this year, they probably win these games that they're losing. I mean, look at the Missouri game as an example. The LSU game, I think they could have won. Mm-hmm. Alabama. I mean, the record should be. I'm not saying they should win all of those games, but like they should at least be bowl eligible right now, and they're not. And that's the disappointing part is you're coming off a year where you had so much success, and laterally the next step is to go up and make the college football playoff, but you're not getting anywhere close to that this year, and you might have a complete 180 on your schedule with a 3-9 record potentially at worst. I mean, that's a harsh possibility to think about.
Yeah, no. The reality of being the complete opposite of what you were a year ago is still very much on the table. We're not rooting for that. I don't want to see this team lose to Coastal. Especially don't want to see this team lose to Clemson either. We want to come in here and talk about positive things. We want to come in here and talk about this team being great. This team, overachieving and being on the cusp of the playoffs. Last year was so much fun, Jack. I thoroughly enjoyed every single week covering this team last year because it was on the rise, right? It was fun. It was exciting. You were taking the college football world by storm. People were talking about you. You were relevant, and this year's been the complete opposite, and that sucks. And again, the "we're so close" messaging gets old really, really fast. You know who else kept saying we're so close every single week? Hugh Freeze, before he got fired 2-3 weeks ago now. And again, you're not as far down the road as Hugh Freeze is in terms of things coming off the rails. We knew that was coming with him basically from the start of the season. And he's gone, and they're looking for a new head coach and all that kind of stuff. But you're trending in that direction right now. And if you don't start turning things around, you're going to be in a similar situation to him. I'm not rooting for that. I like Shane. Think he's a good dude. Think he's a nice guy. I think he loves being here and wants to be here. As he said many times, I think that's very, very genuine. But if you don't get things going back in the right direction, if you don't start figuring out how to win these games, then you're going to be in the same situation.
And here's the thing to anyone that wants Shane Beamer fired right now. It's not just look at the thing going on with all these coaches getting fired across the country and and how that kind of affects things. Number one, South Carolina is probably at the lower end of the totem pole when it comes to best job available if they were to make a move after the season, because is this a better job than LSU, Florida, Penn State? Hey, Virginia Tech's already made their hire, so Shane Beamer is not going to Virginia Tech, but this is not the best job right now. And the other thing to think about is the buyout. Now, money can be an object. It cannot be an object. Who knows? But it's $28 million if you fire him without cause after this season. So there's a lot to think about here. And I don't think South Carolina is going to go down this route regardless of what happens this year. I think it would take something like catastrophically bad, as if this season hasn't been catastrophically bad. It would take something even worse, I think, the next 2 weeks for this to even be a thought. So, I think we're going to be seeing him here next year, but that means his seat's going to be very hot, and he's going to have to get off to a good start, because the thing about Shane Beamer and his career at South Carolina, his teams have never gotten off to good starts early in the season.
No, and you're right. If you're in a situation where the seed is probably going to be as high as we expect going into next year, and look, we don't know what the exact schedule is going to look like in terms of dates and who you're playing when, but look, this year's schedule was pretty loaded, was easier up front, and you got off to a rocky start. And if you do that same thing next year, and let's say you start the season and you're 2-4, they might make the move then. You know what I mean? Like, we're getting really far ahead of ourselves here. And again, I don't want Shane Beamer to get fired, because I do think that he's somebody that wants to be here, that embraces this program for what it is. And we've seen him have success before, but if the results keep being what they are, you're going to have no choice but to do that. You know what I mean?
No, you're right. You're right. I mean, it could be a real possibility, and the track record of how this team plays at the beginning of the season is not ideal and does not help his case. So you got to get this OC hire right in the offseason. He's going to have his chance to fix, as he said multiple times now, that he's going to go out there and fix it. He's going to have a chance to really live up to that promise here heading into next season. But you got to get the OC hire right. You got to get the O-line hire right. You got to bank on your portal guys. Like, you have to get those right. I think we were kind of seeing that this year of what can happen if you don't hit on most of your guys, because I'm not saying there haven't been guys that they have not hit on. I think some of these players have been pretty good for them, but can you really say anyone has been to the level of what you had in 2024 with, like, Demetrius Knight, Rocket Sanders, Kyle Carter, heck, even Dale Von Campbell down the stretch, Gage Larvadain, like they had the offensive linemen they brought in. I mean, they hit on pretty much most, if not all, of their guys in the portal 2 years ago. But we're seeing what can happen when you don't this year. So hopefully you're able to go out there, get a good recruiting class signed, and bring in some good talent from the portal. And it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to convince people to come here with the record and where things are at right now. But I think Shane's more than capable of doing so.
Who would you vote as the best transfer player this year?
Ooh, it's tough, because it's like there really has not been like a overwhelmingly great one. Do you have one in mind?
I would say like maybe Gabriel Brown-Ludindi. I mean, he's been good on your defense line when he's been healthy. He's been banged up this year, but I'd say he's been solid. I wouldn't say he's been phenomenal or great, but he's been solid.
I would say an underrated one for me. It's got to be Justin Okoronkwo.
Yeah,
he's played a lot better lately. He led the team in tackles on Saturday. I mean, hasn't been great all year, but I think he's been pretty good. That's the thing, is that none of these guys have been like nowhere near the impact that D Knight or Kennard. It's just not that type of impact.
And you know, not everybody that you get out of the portal has to be a superstar, but you've had guys like a Boaz Stanley that have been pretty bad. You know what I mean? Like, just to be honest here, Boaz Stanley has not been good.
No, Rasul Faison has not been anywhere near what you anticipated when he came in from the portal.
Yeah, like, it's not just getting superstars left and right, but the sum of what you get should be good overall. And unfortunately, it just doesn't seem like that's the case this year. And again, you're going into a situation where you got to get the OC hire right, like you said. And I liked what I read about what Wes wrote yesterday. That's a tongue twister, about where Beamer's head is at with this OC hire. That's good. Hope he follows through on that. But you got to get that right, and then you got to go out there and knock it out of the park with the transfer portal, because that kind of seems to be the difference between one year and the next. Is the guys you got out of the portal a year ago were great, and the guys you got this year, not so much.
Yeah. So, I mean, once the season ends, a lot of work is going to need to be done. But I do think Shane is going to get this right. And if he doesn't, I mean, that could be the end of his tenure here. But I have confidence that he's going to go out here and do his thing.
I brought a point up yesterday that we're at a crossroads with this program right now coming off this loss. I want to revisit that coming up next as the Extra Point rolls along. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry with you on your Tuesday here on The Game.
to say that I'm at a loss for words would be an understatement. It's really just a really disappointing day. Give credit to Texas A&M. They're a championship team. That's why they're the number 3 team in the country and undefeated. They played like a championship team in the second half, and just so disappointed with our performance in the second half. Nobody came in the locker room celebrating, thinking this thing was over. We talked about it. I mean, last year in this game, we were up big and allowed them to come back and tie the game or take the lead, actually. And then we came back and played great in the second half, but it was the same story today, but they played better than we did in the second half, and they coached better and they played better when it mattered.
All right, welcome back, kid. It is the Extra Points. Howard Head and Jack Beltry with you here on your Tuesday on the game. That, again, was Coach Beamer talking after the loss on Saturday, describing being at a loss for words. I think we said what we needed to say about the halftime thing. Again, he said there, as he did in the post-game press conference as well, that nobody was celebrating in the locker room. It looked like you were, at least going in the tunnel. Again, we're not in the locker room. We don't see the video of whatever your speech was or your adjustments were at halftime, but the optics tell us you were at least celebrating. So we'll leave that with yesterday because I think we got everything off of our chest, and I think we feel better about that. But I think a loss for words is a fitting way to describe probably how this fan base feels about what went down on Saturday and the ramifications and the after effects of dealing with it all the way up to Tuesday now.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I think, pent-up frustration is a good way to put it, from what you just see with the fan base and how they've kind of reacted to how things have unfolded. And there's not much to really be positive about right now. And I think people are I think those frustrations are kind of boiling over to the point where now it's kind of like, I mean, Tyler, I think you've probably seen it as much as I have. I mean, there's a lot of people, and even we got some calls about it yesterday. Mm-hmm. There are people now starting to really call for Shane's job, and it's a far cry from where we were at this time last year. South Carolina having a perfect month in November, and everything's happy-go-lucky. Shane Beamer is on a roll, and he eventually beats Clemson and gets that contract extension. And about a year later, we're in a much different place where people want a regime change.
And that's how fast things happen in college football. And I go back to my comment from yesterday that this really kind of seems like a crossroads, right? That loss on Saturday is a point that we're going to reference for years to come, right? And that's either going to be a situation where we look at it and say, okay, that is where Carolina football under Coach Beamer hit rock bottom, and from then on, they built on that. They got better. They turned things around. We would look back and say, man, remember how down we were on that team after that A&M loss, and look at us a year, 2 years later, making the playoff, being in the mix for the SEC championship game, all this kind of stuff. That can happen. We've seen those kind of things happen. Or this is the point where a year from now, when we're talking about maybe looking for another head coach, say, you know what? That's where it really ended. That is where the wheels officially fell off, and it never got better. It got worse from there, and Beamer couldn't gather things back up and make it better. Again, I'm hoping for the former instead of the latter, but I truly don't know. Again, I look at a situation like Penn State, and that was a more extreme example, but they lose a overtime game at home to a highly ranked Oregon team, and we didn't know it at the time, but that's where the wheels came off. They go on the road, they get embarrassed by UCLA, they lose to Northwestern after that. Now, yeah, should they have fired James Franklin that quickly? Probably not, but it seemed like things were trending in the wrong direction, and they decided to make the move. Now, again, are they going to regret that move? Maybe. We'll see. We'll see who they hire, and we'll see what James Franklin does at Virginia Tech, which we'll get to coming up here in just a little bit, but it happens that fast. And again, with how devastating and embarrassing that loss was on Saturday, that is a reference point, either good or bad, that we're going to be looking back on years from now.
You're right. And it's going to be interesting to see, with how enraged the fan base is, what does this next 2 weeks look like being back at home? What kind of crowd are you getting for Coastal? I'd be shocked if it's a sellout. I just don't think it's going to be a great crowd. I mean,
I think it could be a sellout from a ticket standpoint, but I don't know if every seat is filled.
No, I mean, I think you're going to be seeing a situation where a lot of these fans will continue to show up regardless. I mean, They could say they're checked out. They could say that they're done with this team and everything, but we all know they're coming back to see this team play again on Saturday. They'll be glued to their TVs because it's like this is what they know, right? It's not from a winning standpoint, but just South Carolina is their team through good and bad. So
you'll have your fans that show up that are always going to support this team, but I think there's also going to be a quick trigger if things are not going well. Let's go back to the Oklahoma game. A month ago now, whenever that was, where after the first drive, the Fire Shula chant started, right? And it just built and built and built as that game went along, where you had one of your worst offensive performances of the entire season, which led to the moment you and Coach Beamer had after the game in the press conference. And I don't necessarily know if you're going to get like Fire Beamer chants or anything like that if things aren't going well on Saturday. There'll probably be some. But I think the collective frustration of the fan base will show with boos and jeers and all that kind of stuff. If you're down by 3 points to Coastal at halftime, and your offense has gone 3 and out 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't come to that. That'd be kind of crazy to think about, honestly. And I won't be there in person on Saturday since I'm going to.
That's right. You get to avoid this.
Yeah, I'm going to basketball, so that's been planned out for a little while now. It's not just because things are going bad and I don't want to be there. I would like to be there, but I want to go to basketball. So it's going to be interesting to see if anything happens this weekend in terms of how the fans react if things are not going well this weekend. The Boo Birds have been out throughout the entire year. I really hope there's not Fire Beamer chants because I just think that is a bit dramatic. I think that's a bit much for a coach that is the record's not great overall. He's barely 500, but he's had some real nice moments here at South Carolina. I think he does deserve a chance to go out here and fix this thing and get it right. I think it'd be a shame if South Carolina moved on from him at season's end and didn't give him the opportunity to go out here and fix it. Now, if he doesn't fix it and it's not good next year,
sure,
completely different story.
Yeah.
But give him the opportunity to see what happens because there are major ramifications for what can happen if this thing does not go well. Because South Carolina, it might seem like the right move to move on from him at year's end and cut ties with him just because things aren't going well right now. But let's think about it. It's a lot of money. You're not going to be able to probably not going to be able to get the coach that you want. You're probably going to have to go dig a little deeper. This is going to affect recruiting drastically. Like your roster might be gutted. You're going to have to. I mean, you might be in the same spot 3 years from now where it's like, oh man, well it's not working out.
Yeah,
because it's kind of like that when 5 years ago you fired Will Muschamp, you brought on Beamer, and you're kind of in the same spot where you were with Muschamp. Not as bad, I would say, but it's not necessarily great right now. So you got things to figure out, but I mean, I hope there's not Fire Beamer chance this weekend.
Yeah, and again, it goes back to this being at a crossroads. You're at a low point right now. What happens from here determines everything. If it gets better, great, and we'll go back and say, hey, you know what? That was pretty bad what happened at A&M, but things got better from there. Or it gets worse, and we say, all right, well, that was the beginning of the end. That's where the wheels came off, and Beamer just sunk the ship at that point. I don't know what's going to happen. I hope, again, it's the positive one, because I'd much rather be talking about a team that rebounds next year than us talking about looking for a new head coach in December of 2026. But I don't know what's going to happen. It's up. Beamer's the CEO of this program, right? It's up to him to determine the course of action and what's going to turn this thing around, and ball's in his court to figure it out.
It's just going to be interesting to see what the buy-in of the team is over the next few weeks, to see how mentally and emotionally invested they are in finishing the season out on the high note, because Shane's always had his guys motivated to play, but they've always had something to play for. Now they don't. Besides pride and beating Clemson, that's really it here. So
yeah.
He's always said this season you can't question the want to and the desire to win of this team. But we're going to find out over the next 2 weeks here what that really looks like.
Yeah, we'll certainly see. And look, we'll talk plenty more about this as the week goes along and looking ahead to Coastal as we get closer to the weekend as well. Today, you can join Terry Ford. He's going to be live at White Brown Smiles at 224 O'Neill Court out in Columbia. If you can bring non-perishable food items to help the community in need, that will be appreciated, as they're going to be out there collecting food for those that need it. And then tonight, 6:30, pregame coverage starting for men's basketball as they take on Radford over at Colonial Life Arena with tip-off at 7 o'clock. We'll come back, wrap up the hour. What's going on in the coaching carousel, and where the heck is Lane Kiffin going to go? We'll discuss that coming up next. It is The Extra Point. It's Howard and Jack Beltry with you on your Tuesday on the Game. All right, welcome back in. It is The Extra Point. Tyler Ed and Jack Beltry with you on your Tuesday here. We'll get to what is happening in the coaching carousel coming up in just a moment, but I have positioned today as a Reaction Tuesday as we continue to unpack what happened on Saturday and the shocking loss to Texas A&M on the road, and the ramifications of fallout and what that means for this program going forward. We'll head out to the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. Thad wants to weigh in on our conversation about the fan base. Thad, appreciate your call. What's on your mind today, man?
Hey, fellas, I appreciate you taking my phone call. Appreciate what you guys do. Just a quick comment and possible question. Comment is more about last year. We were starting the year off, I believe, if I'm not sadly mistaken, 1-3. And we had all the talent in the world. That's the whole reason that our defense come back instead of many of them going off to the NFL. But it was vocal leadership that led us to winning 6 straight games and ended the season 9-3 or 9-4 after losing the bowl game. But I think that's what we're lacking more than anything else on our team is a lack of vocal leadership. And it doesn't help when our fan base just rails on everybody. Every time I hear, I listened to Reaction Monday, and all I kept hearing was fire Beamer. Everybody needs to be fired. I got a question. Who are you going to hire? Who are you going to replace him with? In the current climate that we're in, with so many teams firing their coaches, who are you going to be able to go after? And if you're looking for somebody that's going to bleed black and garnet, you will not find anybody any better than Shane Beamer. Just a quick comment. Like I said, I love our team. I think we've got a lot of talent on the team. I think we do need to make some changes, and we have on offense. But I think the best thing for us to do is to be patient and hopefully finish out the season, winning the last 2 games, and just wipe it a clean slate and start over next year. But I think we have what we need to be successful going forward. But we got to stop this mess of not backing our team and not backing our coaches. Appreciate you guys. Hope you have a wonderful, blessed day.
Absolutely. Thank you. You too, there, Thad. 803-404-6100. And you know, fan is short for fanatic for a reason. And there's a reason why I call Reaction Monday, because it's the instant reaction to what you saw usually 2 days before. And again, sometimes you come in with the high emotions, and yes, it's fire everybody, change this, change that. And I think it's time, as you separate yourself a little bit from a game, you know, those kind of emotions do come down a little bit, but there's a lot of people out there that want Shane Beamer gone as of right now. And going back to what Thad said, and it's a point we brought up plenty of times too, I don't know who you would go get. I don't know where you are in the pecking order of jobs as of right now. And that shouldn't be the end-all, be-all reason to hold on to somebody if you don't think that they're the right person for the job. But I think where you're at here at South Carolina, especially considering historically what this program has done, I do think a season like last year is enough to give you a little bit of a mulligan. Again, that doesn't mean this year is acceptable by any means, but it also means that a program like Carolina is typically not going to be as quick on the trigger to fire someone after one bad year as other programs would. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's kind of how I read how things work here at Carolina.
Yeah, and look at everything he had to replace roster-wise after last season. I mean, that in itself was always going to be a challenge. I don't think you were ever going to get the same level of production, regardless of who you brought in from the portal, compared to the impact guys you had last year. Like, you had an SEC Defensive Player of the Year last year. You had a guy that rushed for nearly 900 yards on the ground, over 800. You had a guy that was basically the heart and soul of your team as a true bona fide leader. You had so many impact guys last year, and it was always going to be tough to replace that. And I think that's what we're seeing in 2025 here, is the difference that can make. So, no, that's a great call that we got right there. That is very true of the point that we've always tried to make here, is who are you going to hire if you fire Beamer here at season's end? It's not as easy as saying, well, I want this guy. Well, that guy can only go to one school.
Sure.
So, and if it's a really high-profile guy, odds are he's not coming to South Carolina unless he has some sort of connection here or something. I mean, there's bigger and better schools out there right now.
And I'll agree with what Thad said as well, that I don't think you're going to find anybody that cares as much about being here and wanting to be here as Beamer. Now, again, you still got to win games. Like, your love for the university in Columbia is not some reason to keep you around forever. You still got to go out there and perform, especially when the expectations get raised after a contract extension. So that's not a reason to keep them around for a super long time if the results aren't there. But in a community that does want coaches to embrace it, Beamer has done a good job of that. I will give him that credit for that. He really cares about this place and wants to be here. Again, that's not the end-all be-all for keeping him, but that is something that's significant and I feel like matters to this fan base.
No, it absolutely does. And I think moving forward here, I'm going to be very interested to see how this fan base reacts to whatever happens these next 2 weeks, good or bad, because there might still be people that, even if they go 5-7, this is still a very lost season in a lot of ways, because I think people would probably still view it as a failure because you missed a bowl game and you far underperformed with the expectations. You were number 13 in the country coming into the year. So just not a good year, but still you have a few weeks here to get things somewhat right heading into the offseason.
Well, we spent all day yesterday and the entire first hour today talking about Coach Beamer in South Carolina. Let's take a look at what happened nationally around college football and this crazy college football coaching carousel that's spinning right now. Coming up next in hour number 2 here on the Extra Point in the Game. Tie right here for our friends over at Canty Foundation Specialist. Do you have an crawl space in your home? Well, if you do and a storm comes through, you could end up with some standing water underneath your home, and that can create a litany of issues for you and your family, because high humidity and condensation in your crawl space can create an environment for mold, mildew, and invite pests like termites into your home as well, which, of course, you do not want. And that moisture can also lead to things like wood rot and floor joist problems as well. The musty smells and awful odors can even affect your family's air that you breathe in your home, because about half the air you breathe in your home comes from your crawl space. That's where our friends at Canty Foundation Specialists come in. Go online to schedule an appointment today at cantycomdixon.com, and they'll send a professional out to your home to evaluate your foundation issues and get them fixed so you and your family can live without worry going forward. Again, get your crawl space and foundation issues fixed with our friends over at Canty Foundation Specialist.
going to roll to his right.
For 2 weeks. As you get older, everybody always says the good old days. Like, man, remember in the good old days when we were in high school and everybody talks about how good they were. And I said, hey, guys, I think we're in the good old days right now. So I think we're in them. I think for our fans, for our players, it's like this utopia of what's going on. So enjoy it, because these runs don't happen very often anywhere. So it's really cool.
Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point, hour number 2. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry along with you here on your Tuesday on the Game. That was the voice of Lane Kiffin, currently the head coach of the Ole Miss Rebels as of right now. I don't know how much longer that's going to be the case, and we're going to talk with John Bryce of FootballScoop.com coming up here in about 15 minutes about everything going on with the coaching carousel, because in the last 24 hours, Jack, this story has just gotten wild.
It's very just crazy what's been going on with there's been so much random things going on with LSU. Apparently has sent a plane to pick up members of the Kiffin family, and Lane's ex-wife went out to Baton Rouge yesterday to.
And apparently Florida did this too,
which is crazy. And now it seems that, I think at The Athletic first reported it, that Ole Miss is giving Lane an ultimatum to, by the Egg Bowl, which is next Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, to make kind of a decision if he's going to be at Ole Miss or if he's going to take an opportunity at LSU, Florida, wherever, probably one of those two schools. So, and I have to imagine, Tyler, that it's kind of strange when you've seen all the contract extensions that have been going on around college football the last few weeks here, and Lane Kiffin hasn't gotten one. I have a feeling that Ole Miss has already handed him out a contract extension. Mm-hmm. It's just probably sitting on his desk right now, and he hasn't accepted or declined it yet just because he doesn't know what he's going to do next year.
Yeah, well, and look, that's the part of negotiating, right? You go out there, you see what the other teams are going to be willing to pay you. You come back to the table, the number, see if Ole Miss is going to make that number bigger, and you go from there. But I've held the belief that I didn't think Lane Kiffin was going to leave. But when you talk to people or listen and read the insiders for Ole Miss, they truly have no clue what's about to happen. It really feels like Lane Kiffin is going to make this decision, and nobody outside of his own mind knows which way he's going to go with this. And the thing about LSU and Florida flying out his family and ex-wife, because, and that's been the story of one of the reasons why he might stay in Ole Miss, is it seems like he's finally got his whole family back together. Like, he and his wife have been divorced for several years now, but she lives in Oxford. The whole family's there. His kid's there. His son's a senior at Oxford High or whatever it is, and he's a guy that's being recruited to play college football too. It seems like they got everybody in place and that everybody is happy, but they're at least entertaining these other places to look and say, hey, what do you think of Baton Rouge? What do you think of Gainesville? And it may be a case where if his family is good with it, then maybe Lane makes the move. Or his family is not good with it, maybe he stays. But we truly, usually, when it comes to coaching searches or when it comes to coaches taking other jobs, the insiders know, right? You read the right places, you look at the right tweets, and people give you a good idea of what's going to happen. This one is truly hands up in the air, no clue. He may not even coach the Egg Bowl by next Friday, according to some people.
I mean, that's just, it's crazy to think about, but this is also like the most, are we surprised by this? This is like the most Lane Kiffin way.
1,000%.
For things to go down, right? It checks out with how he is and everything. But me personally, I think it'd be kind of crazy for him to, I think it's just crazy what's going on right now. Why would you leave Ole Miss? You got such a good thing going here. You have so much. He's a king at Ole Miss. If you go to LSU or you go to Florida, I mean, you got to deal with everything that goes on at those programs. And, Lane's got a really good thing going there. He's getting paid well, I think. If he gets a contract extension, he'll be paid even better. I just don't know why you'd necessarily leave what you built at Ole Miss.
Well, and he said it's not, he doesn't care about the money, but the money can certainly make it worthwhile. That's a factor. The belief in sustained resources can also go in there as well. It seems like Ole Miss is buying in a lot right now, but can that be sustained? We'll have to see. So those things could factor in. I just can't help but think, like, if I'm a Ole Miss fan, right? You're enjoying the greatest season your program has ever seen. And by the way, I just noticed they have a bye this week. They don't even play this weekend, which interesting how you worked out a bye in the last week in the season. But still, you're going to play one more game in the regular season. Even if you lost that game, because they're probably going to be like number 6 tonight in the college football playoff rankings, you're pretty much a lock for the playoff at this point. Even if you lost to Mississippi State, and look, Mississippi State isn't as awful as they were a year ago, I still think you get in. Now, yeah, you'd probably be going on the road for a playoff game at that point in time, but I think this Ole Miss team's good enough to beat Mississippi State. That shouldn't be too much of an issue. So you're looking at potentially finishing the season 11-1, at worst 10-2, maybe hosting a playoff game, and your coach is trying to leave, right? Like what a complex mix of emotions you have to have if you're an Ole Miss fan trying to understand this right now.
It's just it's weird what's going on there. I mean, the more this gets talked about and the longer this drags out, I'm sure Florida and LSU probably are getting their offers ready, if not already offered him something. I think he probably is considering this, right? I mean, if a plane's being brought out by both schools to have his family go check out the campus and see everything, I mean, I'm guessing he's not ruling it out, right?
Well, and again, until you get that offer that you want from Ole Miss to stay around, you're going to – that's the thing about negotiating. You're not going to shut the door until you absolutely have to, which goes back to the weekend why when he was asked about, the other jobs being opened, he would not say, yes, I'm staying at Ole Miss next year. Yes, I will be coaching this team next year, because you want to keep your options open until you know for sure what you're going to do. But the reality of a team making the college football playoff for the first time and their coach not even being around to coach those games because he left to take another job, because you got to remember, the calendar is different this year. Early signing day is December 3rd. The transfer portal opens up on January 1st. If Kiffin was at Ole Miss and delayed, if he decided to take the LSU job January 5th, early signing day has already passed. You're halfway through the transfer portal being open. You're already behind the 8 ball for next year. You have to make these moves as soon as possible if you're going to go. And he might just. I have no clue what he's going to do. I thought he would want to stay, but we've gotten this far down the road and nothing's been resolved yet. And again, they gave him an ultimatum, so who knows what's going to happen.
Now, on the other side, there was a really big hire made yesterday that we need to get into here. Virginia Tech. Well, it seems like this was going to be the case here for a little bit now, but officially yesterday hires James Franklin as their next head coach.
I think it's a great hire. I think that's exactly the type of coach that Virginia Tech needs. Again, we can't forget, this guy was in the national semifinals 10 months ago. This was a team, they weren't living up to expectations this year, and what was thought to be a national championship or bust type of season. I still think the firing of him was premature, because the only knock on James Franklin was that he couldn't beat the best of the best in the Big Ten, which for most years was Ohio State, Michigan, more recently Oregon coming into the frame. But, he was still good, still winning 10 games a year, still putting talent in the NFL at a high clip. He's absolutely what Virginia Tech needs. Now, is he going to go there and win a national championship? I don't know. But can he go there and be a serious contender for the ACC on a year-in and year-out basis? Absolutely.
It can happen next year, honestly. I could totally see Virginia Tech with the schedule that they're going to have in the ACC, because the ACC is so far different from the Big Ten, where you have the Ohio State on the schedule every single year. You play Michigan every year. Those are games that James Franklin, more times than not, typically lost in his tenure with Penn State. I just think he's going to do really, really well at Virginia Tech. And I think the standard at Virginia Tech is a little different. Now, I think there's going to probably be some fans at Hokie fans that are probably wanting to see their program get to a national championship and win. But I don't know if that's necessarily realistic in the short-term future. But I do think being competitive and winning 9-10 games a year is a realistic goal for Virginia Tech to have moving forward. And I think that we're going to see Tech give Franklin the resources and the funding that they need to go out here and put together a really good football program. And it wouldn't shock me if this program is right back in the thick of things, winning, close to 10 games next season.
In the last 15 seasons, do you know how many double-digit win years Virginia Tech's had?
In the last how many years?
15 years.
So since 2010.
15 seasons. So I'm counting.
All right. 11?
Yeah. So back to 2011.
Probably like maybe one. They had a few good years in the mid-2010s, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so they had two. One of them was Frank Beamer's last 10-win year, which is 2011. Then in Justin Fuente's first year, they went 10-4. Since then, 9 wins, 6 wins, 8 wins, 5 wins, 6 wins, 3 wins, 7 wins, 6 wins. Currently, 3 wins right now with 2 games yet to go in the season. If James Franklin went to Virginia Tech and was exactly 8-4 every single year for the next 8 years, they take that. Everybody wants to pursue national championships, but you know what? A consistent 8-4 Virginia Tech, and I think he's going to be better than that personally. I think they'd still take that.
You ready to hear the schedule he's got for next season?
Sure.
VMI, Old Dominion, at Maryland, James Madison, Virginia, Georgia Tech, NC State, Pitt, at Miami, at Boston College, at Cal, at Clemson. Tell me right there that is not, if he puts together a very good roster, and imagine how many Penn State commits are going to follow him to Virginia Tech. I think this is a product that can easily go out here year one and go potentially win 8 to 10 games somewhere in that ballpark. I'd be surprised if this is not an automatic success right out of the gate. And we've seen him do good things, at Penn State. He took a program that was in a real bad spot after Paterno and after Bill O'Brien and built it up to what it is now. And he did the same thing at Vanderbilt as well. So he can definitely do it here again at Virginia Tech.
We'll get into this as well as everything else going on with the coaching carousel. Coming up next is John Bryce of FootballScoop.com joins us on the other side. It is the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Crant Schooling and Heating. It's all right, Jack Belcher. Chris Clark will be along in a minute. He said he's running a little bit behind on your Tuesday here on the game.
All right, folks, let me tell you about our friends over at Integrated Media. The beautiful thing about it is you can take your dreams for that home, make it a smart home, dreams for your man cave, dreams for the living room, and they can take whatever you're thinking about and then just turn it into a reality. You can hit them up today, integratedmediainc.com, or give them a phone call. It is 803-948-8327. Their services include basically anything to do with your TV, your surround sound, your smart home services, or securities and cameras. If you work from home, for me, it was all about my home office. Didn't really have a great connection to the Wi-Fi. Needed hardwired internet, so they came in. They ran Ethernet throughout the home into my office, into my wife's office, and made sure we had a great connection there. And then we went a step further with whole home Wi-Fi. They can also hang TVs. They can hide the wires for you, and they can go all in on that man cave too. Hit them up today. Again, for more information, integratedmediainc.com.
All right, welcome back in. It is the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating. Tyler Head, Jack Beltry, and Chris Clark has made his appearance. Welcome in, Chris.
I'm here. Thank you.
Yes.
Good to be here.
Yeah, I came in hot this morning too, so it's okay. Not gonna knock you for that. Oh man, we've been talking about the crazy coaching carousel of college football already this morning, and now we'll bring in another voice to discuss it. That being John Bryce of FootballScoop.com, joining us now on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. John, appreciate your time. How are we doing today?
Doing well. It's a busy time of year, but always glad to visit with you boys.
Absolutely. We appreciate it. We were just talking about Lane Kiffin there in that last segment. I know you've been covering the sport for a long time. Is the Lane Kiffin saga, and will he stay? Will he go? Can you compare that to anything you've ever seen or covered before?
That's a good question. I actually was very involved on the University of Tennessee beat when he left for USC, and I actually staked out Lane in the UT indoor facility and got the first interview with him at like 4:30 in the morning as he was got a police escort out. He had to be escorted out by state troopers. That's the night that students had burned mattresses and all this crazy stuff on campus. And so I've seen the Lane Kiffin spectacle up close and personal. This is once again reminiscent of that, I would say.
John, it's Chris. Thanks for joining us, man. So it does seem like the 2025 version of Lane does seem different than that version. You know, almost 20 years later, maybe a more mature Lane. Yeah. But we've got some reports coming out that he's, sent his family to stake out, Baton Rouge and to stake out Gainesville. And there's it kind of seems like nobody really knows what he's going to do. I mean, do you have any sense? Is it truly like day to day, hour to hour? Do you have any sense if he stays or if he goes?
I talked to a member of the Ole Miss staff probably 10 days ago, and he was pretty confident that Lane was staying put. And I talked to more Ole Miss people in the last 48 hours, and that confidence is not remotely the same. And so I know that Layla was in Baton Rouge yesterday. I think Lane joined them on their travel Sunday to Florida. I think it is a little bit day-to-day right now. I think that the Ole Miss administration, as well as their fans and some boosters, might be, in Lane's eyes, overplaying their hands a little bit by trying to exert some pressure on him to make a decision right here and now, and to talk about, well, if you're leaving, just go ahead and leave, and we'll name an interim, and all of those things that are being discussed out there. So I think that we asked this question on the Football Scoop podcast on Sunday, maybe, and before Sunday, I had leaned that he was staying at Ole Miss. Now I think it's an absolute coin toss, and depending on what the Miami Dolphins do, I wouldn't even rule out him getting some NFL looks as well.
Hey, John, it's Jack here. Thanks for joining us. James Franklin getting hired by Virginia Tech. It seems like a really good move, one that could immediately work out and have a lot of success moving forward. It seems like also Virginia Tech's going to give him the funding necessary to put together a really strong roster. Your thoughts on the move and just how quickly Virginia Tech could be in the hunt for not just in the ACC, but in the playoff picture?
Yeah, good questions, Jack. And I think the last time I visited on this show, I discussed then that I thought James Franklin would be a really good fit for Virginia Tech, and I think that it's a strong move for the Hokies. It's interesting that they just fired his former defensive coordinator and then end up getting to hire him because Penn State had fired James Franklin. But look, I mean, it's been a while, but he was the head coach in waiting all those years ago at Maryland, and so he knows the DMV area, which Virginia Tech has to recruit well to be good. He obviously has recruited the Tidewater area before, which is another key region for the Hokies. Virginia Tech already had its leadership going before the state assembly and their board of governors or whatever their board of trustees is called 2 months ago, talking about how they've got to get $200 million in funding and secure that. And so I think he's coming in at a good time. And you guys know that right now, especially this year, the ACC to me is by far the worst of the four power conferences. There's a bit of a power vacuum there right now. There's great uncertainty at Florida State. So I think James Franklin is a good fit, a good hire, and hitting the ACC at a good time.
Again, talking to John Bryce, FootballScoop.com, about the ongoing coaching carousel in college football. And we're so fascinated by this one from the sheer amount of jobs that are open, but two, the high-profile ones that are available, Penn State, LSU, Auburn, Florida, all those, just to name a few. Arkansas is still an SEC job. Oklahoma State in the Big 12. Like, the law of averages tell you that some of these hires are going to be hits. They're going to be successful and stay around for a long time, but some of them are going to be misses and going to be looking for head coaches again in probably the next 3 to 5 years. And again, this is so wide open right now, so many candidates out there, but who do you think is going to get this right and who do you think is going to get this wrong at this point in time?
Well, I think that certainly with Virginia Tech having already made the move, they're going to stand as one of the best hires in the cycle, in my opinion. Whatever anyone's opinion is on James Franklin and how bristly he can be, he did a lot of good at Penn State and won 34 games there in the last 3 full seasons before getting dismissed this year. So that's a good one. Florida and LSU have tons of resources, but LSU also has dysfunction that matches those resources. So Auburn's just sort of quietly going about its way. They've conducted some interviews. They talked to James Franklin. They talked to Eli Drinkwitz. I like John Summerall's chances there. I'm a big John Summerall guy. I think he's a great coach and would be a great fit, especially with him having gone to high school in the state of Alabama. So that's one to watch. UCLA, nobody knows what they're going to do. Arkansas, this was shocking to me. I made this comment yesterday, maybe on radio or maybe on a podcast, and it was that Arkansas is right now about the least funded program in the SEC, even behind Mississippi State, which shocked me. But that's coming from inside the building at Arkansas, and that's coming from other coaches and personnel executives in the SEC. So Arkansas has got a lot to fix from that standpoint, from an NIL standpoint. I believe Arkansas could have hired a coach already if he had gotten satisfactory answers to their plan for NIL, and he didn't. So Arkansas' search carries on. And I still think there's probably 1 to 2 big dominoes out there yet to fall. I still think there are additional power conference moves that are coming.
So you're telling me the Walmart and Tyson chicken nugget money only goes so far?
Well, John Calipari seems to be getting the majority of that right now on his hoops roster.
All right, John, so let's go to Auburn. You mentioned John Summerall having good chances there. We always say Auburn is maybe the weirdest place in college football, whether it's the games they have, some of the coaching searches, some of the crazy things that have happened there. Is this an actual normal, quote-unquote, search for Auburn? It kind of seems that way this year.
Yeah, I think Cohen is doing a nice job, and I would, again, contend that certainly in this cycle, LSU has superseded the chaos. And trust me, Tennessee, I was at Tennessee a long time when Rocky Top lived up to every single letter of its name. So Auburn is quietly going about its business, probably because LSU and Florida are more high-profile jobs, but that doesn't mean that Auburn is not a really, really good job. And, yeah, I like the way that Auburn is conducting this search. It's also a much smaller media market overall than LSU or Florida, so that always helps a little bit fly below the radar. But it does seem that Auburn has a good system about it for this search and has some good people involved.
Got about another 2 minutes here, John. I think need to ask the localized question here. Just straight up, in your opinion, do you think Shane Beamer is at South Carolina next year, regardless of what happens the rest of this season?
I do. Now, a loss to Coastal Carolina would be really catastrophic because that's another program that's certainly evaluating its head coach and deciding which direction it wants to go for the future. But Shane's done a lot of good things there. He needs to nail this offensive coordinator hire, and he's got to retain his roster. It's something Chris and I have talked about. I know the Vultures are circling. People are already trying to start to pick apart some really talented players on that South Carolina roster. So he needs a win this week. He needs to batten down the hatches, so to speak, and gird against outside influences on his roster, and then he needs to nail the OC hire, and that's going to be the toughest of the 3, in my opinion.
John, have you ever tried to explain the college football coaching carousel to people that don't pay attention to this sport?
No, I have not, and I would not envy those who do. So.
Well, John, we appreciate it as always, and I'm sure we'll be checking in with you as this crazy cycle continues to spin.
Yeah, no, I'm just glad Chris got there in time to visit with us, so you boys have a great day.
Absolutely. John Bryce there of FootballScoop.com. The Arkansas thing's really interesting. The least amount of money in the SEC. That's surprising.
That is surprising.
And if you go to Arkansas, it's like I contend a very underrated place.
It's a very nice little campus there with their
very nice
athletics.
campus. Like they have some. You look at it and you go, this place seems like it has resources, and they do, but it seems like there's a disconnect in how they're deploying those right now for football. It's an important thing. We always think with the coaching carousel, it's about which coach can you go get. NIL is so important. Any coach wants to know, is there in the program, not just from like a dollars and facilities and staff standpoint, but what do you have in NIL? And if you're behind, you're going to fall behind a lot of other schools in the pecking order of like which jobs are most desirable.
Yeah, so that was an interesting comment there. Appreciate John Bryce's insight. And again, we'll probably be talking to him in the next coming days and weeks as this cycle continues to unfold. What's the college football playoff top 25 going to look like tonight after some interesting results from over the weekend? We'll discuss that coming up next. It is the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating on your Tuesday on the Game.
All right, let's tell you about our friends over at Krantz Cooling and Heating. As you all know, every Tuesday and Thursday, the presenting sponsor of the Garnet Trust Hour here on the Game. Appreciate those guys. If you're looking for a local, reliable, family-owned HVAC service company, they've been doing it for years and years, since the 1980s. Justin Krantz, the general manager, still rocking and rolling with things over there. They can help you out with any of your residential or commercial HVAC needs. KrantzCooling.com. That's KRANTZ, cooling with a K, KrantzCooling.com. They can help you out with anything that you may need, again, at your home or your business. They've been to my home and Wes's home, helped us out with service, repairs, even a new installation for Wes. They can do the same for you. 803-672-3224. Financing options available. Maintenance, repair, installations for your HVAC systems at your home or your business. That's the folks over at KrantzCooling.com.
Welcome back in. It is the extra. No, it's not. It's the Garden Trust Tower presented by Krantz Cooling Heating. Almost made that mistake. Anyways, Tuesday afternoon, morning here on the game. I'm all screwed up, guys. I'm sorry. Tyler Head, Jack Beltry, Chris Clark along with you.
We'll forgive you.
Yeah, thank you. Tonight, men's basketball in action taking on Radford over at Cloner Life Arena. Tip-off at 7 o'clock. Pregame coverage starting at 6:30 right here on the game. And as that game is starting, we'll also get another reveal of the college football playoff top 25 as we get closer to the end of the regular season. Only 2 more weeks to go. Then, of course, championship Saturday. And then the field will be set for the second edition of the 12-team college football playoff. And we've got some interesting movement in the top 10 from this past weekend to see who's going to fall, who's going to rise, and where we set things going into the final 2 weeks of the regular season. And I think the biggest question, guys, after the second straight loss to Oklahoma, this time at home, how far does Alabama fall going from number 4 after losing to the number 11 team in Oklahoma?
Well, they only lost by 2, and probably should have won this game because they had, if you remember early on, right before halftime, they had a missed field goal, like a short, I think it was like a 35-yard kick or something. The snap was pretty high. The hold was there, but the kick was just awful. And I think with Alabama, you probably drop them a few slots, but not too bad, I don't think, only because it's a 2-point loss to what's looking like a playoff team right now in Oklahoma.
Well, they still have a loss to a pretty bad Florida State team.
They do.
Supposed to factor into this, too.
They do. So I think you factor that in. I mean, do you see them dropping outside the top 10? I mean, I personally don't see them falling that far for this type of loss. But, yeah, when you factor in the FSU loss, it looks a little bit worse.
I mean, they got to be behind Oklahoma, right? Like, it's only fitting that Oklahoma with the same record would be ahead of them, right?
Yeah, I mean, how far is Oklahoma moving up, though? That's the main thing, because they're at 11 right now. So, and we got to look at who else lost. I mean, Texas lost.
BYU lost at 12.
Yeah, I mean,
got smoked by Texas. So does Texas Tech.
Well, hold on, that was 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, but BYU they played the other night and won.
Yes.
So
I'm going with teams that have like who's beaten who type of thing.
You talking about like recently? Yeah.
Yep.
So I mean, you look at the rest of the top 10. I mean, I don't think anybody else lost. So
no, that was it.
So it's really hard to say how much movement there. It would be. I mean, Alabama's at 4 right now, but coming into tonight, Oklahoma at 11. I mean, how far up does Oklahoma move? I mean, I'd find it hard to believe that Alabama would fall that far behind, Oklahoma in this case.
Yeah, I mean, you got, what was Vandy in the last rankings? 14.
Mm-hmm.
Alabama has the head-to-head over them. Obviously that's outside, but, I mean, so, Jack, you don't think Bama's fallen outside the top 10?
I just can't see it because it's a 2-point loss. I know they've got the loss to FSU on the schedule, but more so I can see them falling a little bit farther, but I can't see them falling all the way behind Oklahoma because how far up is Oklahoma? Is Oklahoma going to leapfrog Notre Dame and Oregon?
They could. They got a better win.
I guess they could. I mean, it's entirely possible. This will be interesting tonight because I think the committee, while they should be able, it shouldn't be that much of chaos tonight. It is going to be very interesting when we talk tomorrow of, okay, where did Alabama fall? How high up did Oklahoma move? Guys, I think the bigger question here is how far does Texas fall do they drop outside the top 25 potentially with a blowout loss and now 3 losses after that Georgia game?
I don't see them becoming unranked again. I think they take a bit of a tumble, but I don't think this warrants falling out of the top 25 necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it, I think the safe assumption, like Texas is out of the top 10. They were 10 last week. They fall out. I think how far is a very good question. Is it, you're just making up, is it 15? Is it 25? They're out of the top 10. Where do you put Bama? Oklahoma moves, they'll move from 11 into the top 10. Yeah. And then the question is how far? Do you slot them at 10? Do you put them ahead of Oregon and Notre Dame? Do you put them ahead of, a couple other teams in there? Where's Georgia? Does Georgia move from 5 to, say, 4? That seems fair. Mm-hmm. Seems natural, with what they did to Texas, who again, when they played them, was the number 10 team. So, yeah, I don't think there's a ton of movement at the top just because a lot of people didn't lose. A&M avoided, as we've been talking about all week. Not a disaster, but, A&M probably, they would have lost to South Carolina. I mean, maybe they're probably still in the top 10, but they're not sitting there at number 3. So not a lot of, chaos in there. I think it's just what do you do with Texas? They're falling out of the top 10. Does Bama fall out of the top 10? And then Oklahoma's got to be in there somewhere. It's just how high are they?
So I kind of just spitballed some rankings here. I think 1 through 3 stays the same: Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M. I think after that you have a natural one-up progression: Georgia moving to 4, Texas Tech moving to 5, Ole Miss moving to 6, Oregon moving up to 7. That's all one spot up. I think then maybe Oklahoma at 8, Alabama at 9, and then Notre Dame at 10. So Notre Dame would drop a spot, but again, they don't have
Notre Dame did just have a ranked win though on the road.
Yeah, but their wins don't match up. Alabama has still beaten Georgia, who again we're moving up to number 4, and Oklahoma has beaten Alabama, who is now number 9. I think their wins are better than what Notre Dame has. Now that still puts Notre Dame in, and at the end of the day, as long as Notre Dame's in, it doesn't really matter if they're 8, 9, or whatever. As long as they're in, that's all that counts. But I could see that happening.
Yeah, I could see. I think that's a good way of looking at it because I do think you need to put Oklahoma ahead of Bama right now. Will that be the case tonight? I don't know. I mean, it should be, but I think it just really depends on how far you're realistically dropping Alabama. Is 5 spots going to be about where they put them? If so, then yeah, I could totally see Oklahoma jumping up to number 8 or whatever it might be, just because of that natural progression of, okay, the teams behind Alabama are automatically going to move up 1 spot because they didn't lose, and it just makes the most sense.
I'm just fascinated by the Iron Bowl. It's a crazy...
At night, too, for the first time in, forever.
In Auburn.
Yeah.
At Jordan-Hare.
Against an interim coach.
Weird things happen in that rivalry. Weird things happen at that stadium. Can y'all imagine, just the roller coaster ride of the Kalen DeBoer era, what we saw last year, people not happy, immediately comes in, loses to FSU. Who, you're sitting there going, okay, well, FSU, they're going to be a good team this year. Not.
Nope.
They're going to make a bowl probably now, or have they locked in bowl?
Oh,
they've got a good chance to make a bowl.
Who is it?
FSU.
I think they're probably a win away.
I think they're a win away. But the point is they're not the team that we thought they could be when
they're 5-5 right now.
So when they beat Bama, you're like, oh, maybe FSU has taken that next step. They really haven't. And so now, if you're Bama, you haven't left yourself a great buffer because you're going to be sitting there if you lose to Auburn, who does have. We just saw Alabama struggled against a really good Oklahoma defense. Auburn's had a lot of problems. They didn't win last time out, right? But they had against Kentucky. I mean, they actually unlocked their offense a little bit where people are going, okay, this is competent at least. And they still have a good defense. Auburn does. Playing on the road, rivalry game. You don't win that one. I mean, Bama's got Eastern Illinois Saturday. They'll win that game. But you don't win that one. Now you're sitting there with 3 losses, 2 in conference, and you're in the danger zone.
And that would eliminate them from the SEC championship too. Because right now it's looking like them and A&M for the title in early December. But losing to Auburn would basically put Georgia in at that point in time.
And it would probably also eliminate Alabama from the playoff, I think, at that point, because they'd be 9-3, no chance of going to the SEC championship game.
With 2 bad losses.
Two bad losses. Now, look, going to Auburn at night, going to Auburn in general for Alabama has always been tricky over the years, but that doesn't matter. It's still a loss to a unranked team that fired their coach, so it would be tough.
One comment we didn't get to last week from the playoff chair that's now dismissed himself for some things going on off the field. He did mention they are holding Georgia Tech not being penalized for that offsides against Wake Forest against them. He said they should have lost that game. They're paying attention to minute details. How funny would it be if Alabama loses the Iron Bowl? It's a Jordan-Hare, voodoo things happen. We're not going to hold that against them.
You never know.
They wouldn't, but
Right. You're playing with fire.
You are.
know, because you might be sitting there in the exact same position, very similar position they were last year, where they're sitting there on the rankings reveal, the final rankings reveal day, saying, "Oh God, we didn't play for the SEC title. We got 3 losses. A couple of them are bad losses, and you're waiting on the committee to control your fate as opposed to controlling your own destiny."
By the way, you talk about a seat getting hot real quick. You missed the playoffs in your first 2 years at Alabama. That'll do it. Oh, man. What weird things happen around college football this weekend? We'll hit the oddities coming up next to wrap up the hour. Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating here on The Game. All right, welcome back in. It is the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating. It's Red, Jack Belcher, Chris Clark along with you, wrapping up the hour here on your Tuesday on the Game. It's time for the oddities of college football. Let's get weird. Let's jump right into it. You guys know I appreciate a good long drive anywhere across this great sport. And Air Force had one on Saturday against UConn. 19 plays, 91 yards, but they turned it over on downs at the UConn 3-yard line after driving all the way from their own, I believe, 7 to start with. But you know what? They're 3-7. They were only down 1 point at that point in time. I'm not mad at it and just disappointed that it didn't end in a touchdown. But, man, what a drive. 11 minutes and 50 seconds.
That's a good one. Too bad they didn't come away with points. I'll tell you what else is disappointing about that game. Y'all know where I'm going.
I do.
Our good friend, Joe Fagnano, he has thrown a pick. It's a good run.
And the Heisman campaign.
He entered the game with 25 touchdowns and no interceptions. And unfortunately, early in the game, too, I sent this to our group chat.
Yeah.
Because they played at the same time that Carolina did on Saturday. I think it was in the first quarter. Throw a pick. All great things must come to an end.
Yeah, it just doesn't look right. Season stats, just short of 3,000 yards, 29.95, 25 touchdowns. Man, one pick. It just doesn't look right to have one pick sitting there.
Hey, by the way, and they won this game 26-16, by the way. Is UConn like the best story we're not talking about? The Fighting Jim Moras are 8-3 this year.
What do you think UCLA's thinking? UCLA's sitting there like, we need a new coach. And they're like,
go get Jim Mora.
We fired this guy. It's not good. I mean, do we see, you don't see that. I mean, have we ever seen, I can't think of an example in college football.
Like a coach goes back?
Well, like in pro sports, you'll see a rehire.
Sure.
They'll be like, we fired this guy years ago. Let's bring him back.
I'm trying to
Now, from somebody being fired to rehired, it's different. Like Mac Brown went back to UNC, but he wasn't fired by UNC.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
I'm not saying that, I don't think Jim Mora would. Not like talking about like I know him. I talked to Jim. He wouldn't do that. I'm not saying that, but like, I don't think you're going to see that. But seriously, what are they thinking? Right now, it kind of went bad at the end of his tenure, but not like terrible. And he did some really good things there. Mm-hmm. Since then, they've just kind of spun their wheels. They're probably sitting there going, man.
Yeah. Did you notice anything on the sidelines of the Georgia-Texas game that caught your attention? Perhaps something that was a little green?
Wait, hold on. We were just talking about something from the Georgia-Texas game because I asked Chris, and I don't know if this is what you're referring to, Tyler, so apologies.
It's okay.
But I asked him, like, hey, like, random question, Chris, like, what's the youngest grade you've ever seen a kid get recruited for at South Carolina? And he's like, there's been some middle schoolers over the years. And I noticed, like, just online a few minutes ago, Georgia had some official visitors in the class of 2030.
Oh, my God.
In 8th grade. Like, these are big kids, but, like, you're having middle schoolers come on official visits.
Peyton Manning's son was there with him, and
I did
he's
see
like,
that.
What, an 8th grader? And
yeah.
Oh, imagine the buzz in 4 years when he's getting ready to make his selection. That's going to be insane. What I was referring to, though, was the 2 people dressed up as the avocados from Mexico standing on the sidelines that stuck out like a sore pink thumb during this game and was hilarious anytime they were kind of in shot or the ball would get near them because they're just losing their minds, I guess doing their job, but definitely a sight to see.
Definitely, yeah. The avocados. What is the jingle there? The avocados from Mexico, right?
Yeah, and for some reason they were on the sideline. I guess they did their job.
I missed the, what was it, Ryan Nani dressing up as the Bloomin' Onion?
I did not see this.
Well, this was years ago.
Oh, okay.
Look it up. He's just walking. They would
I believe
talk
he
to
would
him
do
on the sidelines.
Yeah. You know what? I do remember that now.
Onion.
I do remember that now.
Similar.
Yep. I didn't know that was Ryan Nani, but I do remember that now. Last one here. If you may not have noticed, but UC Davis and Montana State played a ranked FCS matchup on ESPN2 the other night. And during the third quarter, a motorized trash can comes onto the field. It does a lap and leaves with absolutely no context. I've investigated a little bit. That was driven by Virgil Sheridan of L&L Site Services, which is the official garbage can guy of Montana State football. Just happens to have a motorized trash can.
Garbage can guy?
That, I guess for advertising purposes, he drives on the field during the game.
Huh.
I love it. That's exactly what this segment was created for.
Yeah. We need activations like this. Again, there was a lot of talk, Blanchard, who's now sponsored South Carolina and Clemson, put an excavator on the field. Let it drive around even.
Sure.
During the game, during halftime, but put it on the sideline. Let's have an excavator. Let's get weird.
We teams have like the turnover trash can and the turnover belt.
Mm-hmm.
We need like a turnover skid steer.
Yeah,
where like you
drive
can
it around.
You can drive it around, or you put the ball in it and raise it up with the little bucket thing. Like, come on, let's get creative.
Like
here.
dump the instead of dunking the basketball or the football, you like put the football in the bucket.
Exactly.
Put it into deposit it.
Now
into
we're
the,
thinking. Let's get on that for 2026 because we need something like that. That'll do it for the Garner Trust Hour presented by Credit School and Heating. Coming up next, Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs on your Tuesday on the Game.
All right, everyone, as we close out the hour here, let's tell you about our friends over at Classic Roofing. Know everybody listening, got things going on at your home or business that need service. You want to find local, reliable, trustworthy companies that can help you with it, that we can vouch for. That's what we can do with our friends over at Classic Roofing. ClassicRoofingSC.com for more information and get a free estimate. You can even visualize what a new roof may look like on your home with their GAF virtual design tool. Only 7% of roofers nationwide are GAF certified. That's what the folks over at Classic Roofing are. Give them a call, 803-590-7870. They can help you out with all of your roofing needs, whether it's inspections, installations, replacements, or repairs. Joe Reed or Max Sawyer, families that live right here in the Midlands. So again, a local, reliable company, ClassicRoofingSC.com or 803-590-7870.
11 o'clock on your Tuesday morning. Welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler Head, Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell back in the fold with us here today. As I'm sure Wes definitely missed not being at Firehouse Subs yesterday. And again, appreciate Larry Chandler and everybody over the West Columbia location for allowing us to be out there. As we had a great time as always, enjoyed some subs, fries, and all that kind of stuff. Though, Wes, maybe you weren't so jealous about missing the opportunity to talk about what went down in College Station on Saturday.
Let me just say, guys, you can verify. I told y'all beforehand that I was going to have to miss that Monday. This was not.
I vouch for you.
You did. I forgot. Chris reminded me.
Yes, this was not a fourth quarter on Saturday decision.
It's like, nope, not going to talk about that one.
Don't feel like talking about that one. But yes, I did. You know what's funny? I did find myself craving some Firehouse Subs. Man, I missed out on that. And so I missed that part. Not a fun game to talk about, though. Just not. And I don't know what I can add that I'm sure y'all already talked about, but obviously just very disappointing, and a great opportunity created in the first half that just went up in smoke in the second, and could have just been not that it would have like fixed the season to that point, but it would have been such a, I feel like, breakthrough moment for these guys who have obviously just not had the season any of them envisioned, and not had the season any of them wanted, and they it seems like a group of good kids and good guys and a good they have put in the work. So it would have been really cool for them to be able to see it realized on the field instead, just of being talked about as being on the wrong end of the best or biggest SEC comeback in recent memory. So yeah, just a tough day at the park for those guys. And man, the fan base has been on fire the last couple of days.
I asked Chris this yesterday and Jack, at what point did you get concerned in the second half? Like, okay, this is starting to go the other way and they might actually lose this game.
Well, I didn't have that thought, but I'll say this. When Marcel Reed converted the 4th and 12, at that point it was still 30-3.
Mm-hmm.
I was saying if they had stopped him there, this game is probably close to mathematically over.
Mm-hmm.
Like just the number of possessions, the time.
Especially if you go and score again right there.
Yes. Even if you just have a drive and run off, a good portion
couple
of
minutes.
it. Yeah. I will say, so that was the first moment where I was like, man, they could have just iced this thing. When they got stopped on 3rd down and then 4th down and short, both occasions, and then A&M started going right back down the field, I was like, Marcel Reed has locked in now. And because here's the thing about the first half. So yes, South Carolina played well enough to race out to that lead. But A&M, we talked about this. Remember we were talking about like the blueprint, what all has to happen?
Yep.
A&M is missing short field goals. They missed a somewhat long field goal, dropped a bunch of passes. They were sleepwalking, and you punched them in the mouth, essentially. And so, how many teams in the country are equipped enough to just to execute the way they did on those 4 drives in the second half?
Mm-hmm.
Most offenses in the country right now probably can't do that against air. Like their margin for error had just completely evaporated. And if A&M goes on and wins the championship, like that will, unfortunately for South Carolina, like that will be one of those moments that people talk about for ages.
Yeah, you're going to be on that highlight tape for a long time, unfortunately.
I mean, as much as we talk about it from the standpoint of South Carolina, and yes, it is a blown lead, like it 100% is. You can't sugarcoat that. I mean, the football fan in you has to at least have a little bit of. I'm impressed with A&M for them just actually go out there and be able to do that, and frankly the mental fortitude for a guy like Marcel Reed who just was down and out and looked lost in the first half to get that back. And, there is a certain, and again, the last, what's the number, 267?
It's now 1 for 287. It was 0 for 286.
Okay. So in no way am I saying, oh yeah, that can happen. But a lot of time, like if you're down late in the game, or in this case, down that much, it felt to me like A&M and Marcel Reed just said, what do we have to lose at this point?
Yeah.
I'm going to let this thing fly. And so he starts throwing the ball in tight windows. Those balls were not hitting in the first half. And then they start connecting in the second, and then you can feel the confidence. I wasn't at the game, but you could hear the crowd. The momentum started to shift. When they scored that second touchdown, I felt like it really shifted, and you're going, man, Carolina needs a drive at this point. And then the drives did not happen. I will push back on people that say South Carolina got conservative in the second half. I don't believe they did. And if you're saying from a play calling standpoint, oh, they got conservative.
Yeah.
For the most part, the play calling in terms of aggressiveness was very similar first and second half, in my opinion. The difference was frankly, Sellers missed some throws that were there, that were not really. They weren't really difficult throws. They weren't like you had to layer the ball. Like he missed some layups. You had a drop or two. You had the running lanes, which were there in the first half, enough to keep them honest, started to just kind of dry up. And I feel like if you kind of start to, what I'm trying to do, if you kind of get out of the emotion of everything that happened and the blown lead and all this stuff, how did this actually happen? And, when you're calling, people typically, if you're running the ball and you're successfully running the ball, you don't typically hear people say, oh, they're being conservative. They're being conservative. But if you run the football and you, are not having success, it's, well, they got conservative. And so not having success, one thing I agree with like most people on, I understand you're trying to run the football, you're trying to prove a point, you're trying to establish physicality and dominance, but third and short, fourth and short, my quarterback has got to see one of those calls at least. Or I was sitting there going, you're on the road, number 3 team in the country. Because of the lead you have built, and at this point it was 30-10. Because of the lead you have built, every possession you have from that point forward, you're going to, until you're losing, you kind of were going to have opportunities to put the dagger in. So I'd be looking for opportunities to put the dagger in. If you had emptied out the backfield and short yardage, you emptied the backfield, defense is going to go QB run, QB run, QB run, because they're going to see you spreading it out. If you'd have emptied the backfield and did one of those fake QB draws and then leaked the tight end down the seam, you're probably walking into the end zone. Like, I took that as, man, this is an opportunity to have one of those calls where people go, wow, that was a great call. And if it doesn't hit, especially if you did it on third down, if it doesn't hit, now you're going for it on fourth down anyway. So no problem with the decision to go for it there. I saw a couple of, why don't you just kick it? It's a long field goal and it was windy as all get out. Going for it.
With the not the most reliable field goal kicker so far this year.
Going for it was the right move, but, man.
Yeah, I think you could pick out a couple, like, we had somebody push back yesterday, and which is fine. Like, everybody's entitled to their opinion, because we were making the same argument, Wes, that the play calling was not actually, from an offensive standpoint, conservative. They weren't even conservative defensively in the second half. You could argue they should have been more conservative, maybe, even though, a lot of they got beat on a 3-deep coverage, right? Like, for a touchdown. That can't happen when you're in 3-deep coverage. I think a lot of it was just you could pick out an individual play call here or there, like that 3rd and 1 or that 3rd and 2, the 4th and 1, where you say, maybe throw the ball, run something outside, whatever. maybe you say, well, run it, but that doesn't mean the entire half was called conservatively. I actually think it seemed to me that South Carolina scaled back what they were doing offensively, which worked very well in the first half because they found some things that worked. They executed them. I think that helped the team. The second half, it might have worked against them a little bit because A&M started making some adjustments. And I think that's one reason why the running lanes closed to where Carolina had, 6 yards a carry in the first half. You look at the second half, they're 0.9 yards a carry, or less than 1. What's one reason for that? Yeah, A&M played better and all that, but I think they actually adjusted schematically to some things that South Carolina were doing too. And, you had plenty of opportunities. I'm with you, Wes. We spent a lot of time yesterday. Not that that was the only play, obviously, in that game. There were plays in the first half. There were a bunch of plays in the second half in all phases that needed to be better. One thing here or there, and maybe it's just A&M storm back and still loses that game, because you built up a cushion. I certainly would have liked to see something different. Maybe we don't want to pass the ball because we're in 3rd and 2, and we saw it at the end of the game, sometimes in short yardage situations, passing the football, we take a sack, and now we're 4th and something. Now, you still punt there, right? Point is, I would have liked to see something different.
I had the same thought on when South Carolina extended the lead to 20-3. So at one point there was a 3rd and long in the first half, and they're right around the edge of field goal range, and they said, hey, we're going to be conservative. They ran the football, got a few yards, and then they tacked on with a field goal. And, I think you probably, from a play call standpoint, were saying, man, this year we've thrown the ball around that 30-yard line quite a bit. We've taken sacks out of field goal range. We already have a lead. Probably said, hey, we can't put our team in that position. So some of that stuff you kind of understand. I'll be honest. You want to talk about conservative versus aggressive? I was going, man, most South Carolina teams in history, after this is end of second half, I'll set the scene. End of second half, you've just thrown an interception, then you've been stopped, then you get your own stop in the end zone. This is Vakari's interception. Clock is, end of the half is here. You have at this point a 20-10 lead, a 20-3 lead, and most South Carolina teams in the half are going, in the past are going, let's get this to the half. And that's when South Carolina aggressively rolls out, throws to Harbor. We get to see the Harbor. That's the Harbor play.
The dream play.
Like, I know everybody wanted to see the Harbor deep ball that we've seen a couple times this year. That was the Harbor play that I have wanted to see since he arrived in Columbia. That one where the sea opens up just a little bit and he sees the end zone and he just will not be stopped. So, they were aggressive in terms of that, I thought. For everything that went right in the first half, everything went wrong in the second.
So what now? We'll discuss that coming up next. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs on your Tuesday on the Game. Welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West and Chris with you on your Tuesday here on the game. A busy day today. You can join Terry Ford live at White Brown Smiles at 224 O'Neill Court out in Columbia as they'll be gathering food for the community in need. Please bring non-perishable food items out there and help out those that need the help. Then tonight, 7 o'clock, men's basketball taking on Radford. Pregame coverage starting at 6:30 here on the game as Lamont Paris's team looks to continue their season on a winning streak. And, of course, coming up today in about a little over an hour and a half at 1 o'clock, we got the Shane Beamer weekly press conference as he'll continue to address what happened on Saturday and look ahead to Coastal Carolina coming in here this upcoming weekend. And I think the big question on everybody's mind is, okay, now what? I mean, you had this really high on Saturday where it looked like you had the potential to upset the number 3 team in the country, and that wouldn't have suddenly changed the entire course of this season necessarily. You still would have had to fight through the last 2 games to get yourself to bowl eligibility and would have been looked at as a step back from last year regardless, but it could have provided a little reprieve for what's been an overall disappointing year. Of course, you end up faltering down the stretch and losing it in the second half, and now you're sitting here 3-7, knowing you're not going to go to a bowl game. You have 2 tricky games left with a very competent and scrappy Coastal team and, of course, your rival in Clemson, and then the offseason of who knows what happens after that. It's like, where do you go from here? Like what happens next? This fan base is so down right now, and for good reason, that they're looking for signs of optimism.
Are they?
Maybe not. Maybe not.
I don't know if we've actually reached that point in the week yet. Maybe today we have, but for the last 48 hours, I think, I mean, that, and I'm not saying that in a derogatory way towards the fan base. I'm saying that, like, man, that one burned. Like, I get it. Like, that hurt. Especially the first half and the way it went. Not just, to go out there and compete, but to be up as big as South Carolina was. Like, I know, like, I was getting texts from people like that I hadn't talked to in forever that were like, "Are you seeing this? I can't believe this is happening." And with excitement.
You became the buzz game of the day. Where again, people outside of this fandom, the Aggie fandom, probably weren't making that appointment television, right? But people are watching the little ticker at the bottom of the screen or getting score updates, watching another game. Like, hey, wait a minute. I'm going to check this game out. What's Carolina about to pull off here? Are they going to pull another Tennessee from 3 years ago? And then it obviously went sideways.
Yeah, like what was that one week I said, this viewing window will be where you're going to be checking the scores. There's not a marquee game to watch, but you're going to check the scores. And then I think that was when UCLA beat Penn State that day. But for the rest of the college football world, you've had a couple of those if you're South Carolina. Wait, South Carolina's leading Bama in the fourth quarter. Ended up being the most viewed game of the weekend. I think that week, if I remember correctly, was definitely up there. So, yeah, all of a sudden, man, you're the talk of college football, and then all of a sudden, you are the talk of college football.
In the bad way.
Yes. So, man, I get it. I've been trying to formulate, like, my thoughts on all this and where things are going, and I haven't quite. And it's probably going to be posted on Gamecock Central first. I haven't quite fully fleshed out all my thoughts on the offseason and where things are going and where I think they should go. But I'll say this right now, the roster, it appears, is going to be in a place to stay intact. And I believe right now, this is assuming the guys don't just, kind of you lose the locker room or whatever. So far, no signs of that. Then I think it's way more dangerous just to blow it up. I really do. Like, I think if you're looking at what gives you the best chance to win next season, blow it up or keep the roster intact, add the right supplements from the portal, and hire the right offensive coordinator, I think that's the route, man. I really, truly do. And, people say that's a homer take, whatever. I'm worried. I'm done worrying about all that. I didn't sit here when they were about to fire Muschamp and say, oh, no, you shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Frankly, when it came to Frank Martin, I thought it was actually a little bit late and a little bit early. I thought once you kept Frank Martin and you looked at what the roster, once you kept him that year after everybody thought they were going to get rid of him, the roster he had coming back, and then they were about to add G.G. Jackson to it, I was going, why blow it up now?
Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of these same guys in marquee positions were a couple plays from the playoff last year. A lot of those same guys right now project to be back next year. If you just blow it up, you're going to blow up the entire roster. And so how different is this season, frankly, if literally you change one thing? And that one thing is that Lenore Sellers has played up to what we kind of thought he would coming into the year. You're not in the playoff, but you're not sitting here where they are right now, frankly. So at this point, there's 2 games left. I know people, the OC hires have not been, completely inspiring. I get that. I get people's opinion on that. But I do believe that Beamer has earned the right to go back out there and run this thing back with the proper changes this offseason. And I also I always look at all right, what is the best situation for the team next season? And I just don't think emotionally blowing it up because you're ticked off about this past game and the disappointing season is the proper route at this time.
Yeah, and I think South Carolina's administration is taking the posture that we were talking about this a lot yesterday. Some people out there have argued if Beamer comes back next year, it's saying that you're okay with what happened this season. And it's not. It's not that simple, right? What you're saying in that instance is that what is the best path forward? And it is to give him an opportunity to fix it because he's built up some cachet at South Carolina. He took over a program after COVID, couldn't recruit anybody in person. It was the first year of the transfer portal. Not great circumstances to walk into from a head coaching job. Oh, and by the way, the team had won 2 games the previous year. Now, there was still some talent on that roster, which is one reason why everybody was so frustrated. Should get the feel like this should be a little bit better or a lot better. And outperforms expectations. He had the rough year in 23. And so if you're looking, to your point, Tyler, for that silver lining, what is the path forward? It is, can he do a version of what he did from 23 to 24? 2023, bad vibes. You're losing your 2 best players in Spencer Rattler and Xavier Legette to the NFL. And he was able to make it happen, right? He made some moves in the offseason. They hit the portal well. He didn't make as many changes, actually, as people wanted. And those things, they didn't get to the mountaintop, but they had a really good year. The thought is you've got to go run it. If you're going to run it back, give him the opportunity to do that. And so, as we're sitting here right now on Tuesday for the Coastal game, that's the feel. And I think that makes sense. As angry as everybody is about this season, rightfully so, I think we should all be able to see at least some sense in that, that path makes some sense.
I think the frustrating thing is that you become a program that is wildly different year to year, right? Everybody wants consistency. And if you're consistently going 8-4, then yeah, you'd like to be better, but there's something to be said about consistent, solid winning. When you go from not making a bowl to being a playoff bubble team to not making a bowl again, people are just be one or the other. Commit one way or the other. And, going into next year, you hope it's going to be similar to the turnaround from 23 to 24, but you just don't know that. It depends on OC hire, it depends on the transfer portal, all these kind of things. And that's what drives this fan base so crazy about how these last couple years have gone.
Yeah, and I think, nobody, even the people saying, I've seen South Carolina football a long time. I've seen this movie before. We could still very much disappoint. And, a lot of us were going, I'd be shocked if this team didn't at least go out there and, make a bowl and have a good year. And so you kind of, I get it, you had the rug pulled out from under you again. But I also think that there's a greater kind of aspect here in that in the transfer portal era, in the NIL era, being consistent year to year and just being like, hey, we're just good every year with the opponents you're playing. If you're South Carolina, yeah, that's what everybody wants. Maybe there is a guy out there who can give you that. I don't know. Like that should be your realistic expectation. But like somebody had a take that I thought was pretty good. Like the whole thing of you're not serious about winning. Well, so should you just fire every coach the exact moment that you have one of these moments?
We'll get to some of your thoughts coming up next on the AAA Heat and Air phone lines. The Gamecock Central Takeover Hour continues on the game. Welcome back in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West Chris along with you here on your Tuesday on the game. Reaction Monday can kind of spill over into Reaction Tuesday because there was so much to unpack from what happened on Saturday and the loss to Texas A&M. We'll head back out to the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. Gene wants to weigh in on what's going on with this football team. Gene, appreciate your call. What's on your mind today, man?
Thanks, guys, for taking my call. First and foremost, I'm going to tell y'all do an excellent job, the whole staff up there on these shows. But I'm going to use y'all an example. If you come in there week in and week out, and you and Tyler or whoever I'm speaking to say, we got to do a better job. We got to do a better job on our show. Continuously hearing this, eventually you're going to get fired. You're going to be looking for a job. Am I correct?
Sure, yeah.
You're not going to use that as an excuse. Well, that's his excuse. And I'm a big Shane Beamer fan. I wanted him hired from the start. I'm a big Shane Beamer fan, but he cannot continue to say, we got to coach better. When's it going to happen? You blew 2 games coaching this year. That Alabama game, that Texas A&M game, y'all blew it coaching. Them players played their hearts out. And y'all blew it by changing up plays, changing up defenses, going conservative. And you said he deserved to run it back. Maybe he does, but what makes him deserve to run it back? He's 2-3 against win and losing seasons. He's won 2 winning seasons. He's had 3 losing seasons in 5 years. Yeah, let him run it back. But if he don't make the correct OC hire this year, they need to find a change. And I'll hang up and listen to y'all guys. Thank you.
Absolutely. Appreciate the call there, Gene. 803-404-6100. And that echoes a lot of the sentiments of what we heard yesterday and what we're going to be hearing a lot more of as we go through the final couple weeks of the regular season on into what's going to be a very important offseason. Coach Beamer, I will correct one thing there. They didn't have a losing season in his first year. They did go 6-6, won the bowl game, and got 7 wins. So the only 2 losing seasons he's had would be 23, and then this year where the best you can go is 5-7. But it's a 3-2 split between winning and losing seasons, so it is pretty close, through 5 years. But again, the frustration is certainly justified, especially off the heels of a historic collapse like you had against A&M.
Yeah, just had it backwards there. And so why should you be able to run it back? I would say, just to try to answer your question, Gene, for one, yes, if we came in here and our ratings were terrible every single year and we kept screwing up, at some point we would be fired. Now, if last year we had a show and they said, man, guys, you are a finalist for a national award that is the top 12 radio stations in the entire country. You missed it. Like this is somewhere that this station has never been before, and you missed it by just a handful of little things. But we really think next year you can maybe take that next step. And then this year we come back and things just do not go like we thought. We kind of try to follow the same blueprint, but there maybe maybe there was a new board operator that was helping us out for some of the shows, and he just didn't dial it up the way it was needed. They probably would be like, is there a plan to fix this, or like, do we need to go in another direction? Because you were just right on the precipice of where you wanted to be last year, and you fell way back this year. Do we need to go at a completely different? Do we need to blow the whole thing up and risk starting over completely? What if nobody likes the new guys we bring in on the radio at all? What if it's like terrible? But you said, well, everybody else is coming back. We're going to get a new maybe engineer to help out with some things, and then we're going to give you one more opportunity to run it back. Now, if you don't do well next year, then yeah, we might have to have some tough conversations. That, to continue your analogy, Gene, is how I would. Now, if we just had terrible radio for 5 years now, I'd be like, yeah, I'll fire myself. I'm out.
Right.
But also, I know it's transfer portal era, everything, you can win early now. You can win quick. Yeah, you can win quick. You can lose quick, too. I would take into account, well, to continue the analogy, what were the ratings when we took over the show? Was everything going great? Or were you in the bottom when you took over? That would be my thought.
Yeah, and I think, again, it's hard to do nuance, but you kind of have to do it. And, I put out a piece yesterday about Beamer's resume, right? And I think most people would consider Steve Spurrier the best coach in school history. Took him a while to get going. And I guess I am comparing the two because you're comparing their resumes. I see a lot of people say, well, you can't do that because that's Steve Spurrier. At the end of the day, even Steve Spurrier is what his record is. Even if his name's Steve Spurrier and he won a title at Duke and he won a national championship at Florida, you are what your record is. Through 5 seasons, there are some people very frustrated with Steve Spurrier. And the two resumes are actually kind of close. Now, what if South Carolina had, a really bad AD when Spurrier was here and just said, you know what, we want to go get a younger guy. Let's kick Steve Spurrier to the curb after 2009. Look at what they did right after that. Didn't win a title, but they were in Atlanta that next year. I'm not saying Beamer, right? But, if you're trying to find the path, Steve Spurrier through 5 years, 7 top 25 wins, 2 top 10 wins. Shane Beamer, 6 top 25 wins, 3 top 10 wins. Spurrier has a couple more wins in the SEC. Beamer has 2 losing seasons. Spurrier did not have one. Spurrier's overall win percentage is a little bit better. Both had 2 wins against Clemson. So, there are some similarities. Now, what does that mean? I don't know. I'm just giving you the numbers as to what they are. The point is, I think, next year is going to be a critical year. We know that. It's obvious. I think the discussion is, does he get the opportunity to run it back or not? And our expectation right here sitting is that he does. And if you go back and look at the resume, including less than a year ago, there are some things there that can, maybe give you some confidence in that.
I don't want to put words in Beamer's mouth and, or pretend I know what he's thinking, but I do think if you go back and look, I think there's probably some decisions made this past offseason that, seeing how everything played out, he would absolutely want back. I also think you've proved you can get to where they got last year, which is right on the edge of, college football playoff. They competed for the college football playoff, put it like that. That next step to the point of, you're in the thing is probably the hardest step you're ever going to take as a program. And most programs have this moment where you've seen some promise, but then things go very, very bad, and then you have to make a decision. Did we see enough to stick with this, or are we ready just to blow the whole thing up? There are a lot of people that wanted Clemson to move on from Dabo Swinney when they got smoked 70-33 by West Virginia and said, look, it's just this guy's going to lead us to where we're wanting to go. This is worse than Tommy Bowden.
Yep.
And that spurred major changes within the fabric of how they operated, and the rest is history, this season notwithstanding. So none of this stuff is cut and dry. I'm not sitting here saying any of us have the answers or even that we're right. I don't even, opinions are opinions, but to me, it's not an obvious, just fire the guy and move on. You might not like what you see next year if you go ahead and make that decision, frankly.
Yeah, but again, I understand where the frustration's coming from, and again, still got 2 more games to close out this year, and we'll see what happens past that. We'll see how we did on buy or sell. Coming up next to wrap up the hour, it is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs here on The Game. All right, welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West, Chris, wrapping up the hour here on your Tuesday on the game. Time to check how we did on buy or sell over the weekend. We'll go through this pretty quickly. We did come in pretty tight. Chris had the lead 34 to Wes's 32 and my 31. And we all actually did perform pretty well over the weekend, all things considered. Question number 1 was, will Mike Furry run a trick play on the first play of the game? The answer was sell, because it was an inside zone run to Matthew Fuller. You guys both sold on that and got
For
it
a
correct.
positive gain.
Yeah, for a positive gain.
And they did run a trick play later that.
They did run a trick play, but it was not the first play of the game.
Yeah.
I thought he might go into the bag of tricks right away. Did not happen. Question number 2. In the 5 games in College Station, South Carolina was averaging 16.4 points per game. Buy the over or sell the under. This was for offensive points, and they, of course, went over that with 23 total offensive points of the 30 points they scored, and we all bought that. So they at least did that. And that was the highest point total of the season, offensively speaking, and your highest yardage total. Very small silver linings, if anything.
Yeah, we got a point, too. That's a silver lining.
We do. We all got a point for that one. Buy or sell number 3, Jay Jacobs was the only receiver to have over 100 yards this season, which he did in back-to-back games. Buy or sell somebody would go over 100, and Nick Harbor just barely did that. 102 yards. Myself and Wes bought that one.
Golly.
I believe I said it was going to be Harbor, too.
I think you did. Yeah.
You know, Nick technically got over 100 yards on that long touchdown run because he kept going.
Into the tunnel.
Yeah.
Where
he got about 30 more yards on that play.
Where he encountered Barney Fife.
Yes.
Oh, that. Yeah, of everything that happened in that game.
Yeah, that happened.
That may have been the part that went the most viral, to be honest with you.
Yes.
Yeah, what
People talk about the collapse, but
loser of a cop.
LeBron James was talking about the cop, trooper, whatever he was. Yeah. Well, loser mentality.
Yes.
Awful.
100%.
What was that, Chris?
I said 100%.
Okay. Buy or sell number 4. Marcel Reed had only been sacked once in the last 5 games. Carolina could get a sack on him, and the correct answer was yes. As
Very early in the game. Very
early in the game. We did all buy that one, too, by the way. Buy or sell number 5. This will be a 1-score game in the 4th quarter. I was the only one to buy it.
Dang it.
That was correct. I put LOL yes on my notes here and writing this down.
Why'd you do that?
Because it was a 1-score game, but we all know why.
Well, it almost, like, at the half, you were going, we would have bought, which we did, and it would have been not a 1-score game, but for the opposite reason.
Exactly. Yeah, we were trying to. I was trying to instill optimism of keeping it close on Saturday, and as I said yesterday,
half, it looked like.
Yeah, if I would have had the crystal ball and told you on Friday what the final score was going to be with no context, you'd be like, oh man, they took the number 3 team in the country to the limit,
Like
maybe
to the brink.
Yeah, maybe lost on a last-second field goal, and you could have never foreseen what actually ended up happening. So unfortunate. And then final one, the bonus one, Jeff Fagnano, 25 touchdowns, no picks, entering their game Saturday against Air Force. And unfortunately, he threw his first pick of the season.
Joe.
Jeff? Joe? Is it Joe?
Called him Jeff.
Sorry.
That's like the thing Preston had where he kept calling, on purpose, Josh Heupel, you call him Jeff until he earned Josh.
Did he earn it yet?
I think so, right?
Okay.
I think
he
did.
calls him
I think
Josh
he did.
now.
Yeah, okay. Yes, Joe Fagnano. Yes, that's his name.
Don't disrespect Joey.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Has the Heisman campaign come to an end? Is it over?
Yes.
How'd you know that,
Who
Wes?
bought that?
You bought it.
You were the only one.
You're the only one.
No, you sold it because you thought he was going to throw the pick.
You picked it correctly.
We bought it because we
All right.
thought the streak was going to continue.
Okay.
So yeah, you were correct there. Wes having the weekend of all of us as he got let's see, 5 of the 6 correct.
Let's
So
go.
You're up to 37, which brings you to a tie with Chris at the top, and I have 35 now. Razor thin margins, guys.
Yep.
Here we go.
Life in
Coming
the
up to
SEC.
Yeah,
Thin margins.
thin margins. You could have been with us and thought he would keep the interceptionless streak going for the sake of fun.
No.
No.
Here to win.
I brought this up to Chris in the last hour. Is UConn the best story we're not talking about? They're 8-3. I know they're an independent, so they're not really in a conference title race. Though if they were in like the American, they could be.
Yeah, we're definitely not talking about it because I did not know they were 8-3.
Do you know who their coach is?
No.
You want to take a guess?
No.
Jim Mora.
Really?
Junior.
Junior. Yeah, not the playoffs
That's what I was saying. Wes, I'm like, what do you think UCLA's thinking right now? You know, they fired him. They're like,
yeah,
probably could use him right now. He's not really coming up for any of these jobs, is he?
He's not, but
kind of weird.
Does UCLA send the "you up" text at some point? Like, hey, no, we ain't talked in a bit. What you got going on over there?
What you been doing?
Want to come back out to sunny LA as opposed to freezing Connecticut?
Stores.
How old is Jim Moore Jr. now?
Ooh, he's got me his 50s at least, right?
I mean, he's kind of got the thing, though, where a coach, like, rises to their plateau and then kind of falls off, but then is probably just, I'm happy over here winning a little bit out of the spotlight and getting paid.
He's 64.
Yeah, so see. He's living a decent life right now.
He's doing fine. He's doing fine. That'll do it for the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. Halftime show with myself coming up next here on The Game.